All right, welcome back. Today, we are wrapping up our series on what is, without a doubt, one of the biggest changes to Next.js we've seen in a long time, caching components. And look, this isn't just some minor new feature. This is a fundamental shift, a whole new way of thinking about how we build and optimize our apps. So buckle up, because by the end of this, you're going to have a powerful new tool in your belt. Hey everyone, welcome to BuildBytesDaily. Our mission today is pretty straightforward. We are going to completely demystify cache components. We're going to walk through how to migrate your existing apps, and more importantly, how to use this new model to build apps that are faster and more dynamic than you ever thought possible. Let's get you using these tools with absolute confidence. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the big idea, the core shift in thinking, then we'll put the old and new ways head to head. After that, we'll get practical with a migration guide, see it all working with real examples, check out how it applies to API routes, and finally, we'll talk about the new superpower this gives you as a dev. Okay, first up, the big shift. For what feels like forever, the Next.js mantra has been static first, right? The framework did all this magic behind the scenes to pre-render and cache as much as it could for you. Well, with cache components, that whole model gets flipped completely on its head. We are now living in a dynamic by default world. And this quote right here, it says it all. It used to be our job to tell Next.js which parts of our app not to cache. We had to opt out. Now, we explicitly tell it what we want to cache. We opt in. This puts the control firmly back in your hands, letting you fine-tune performance right down to a single component. So, to really appreciate why this is such a game changer, let's do a little side-by-side comparison. Seeing the old way versus the new way is where the light bulb really goes on. This table just lays it out perfectly. Think of it like this. The old way was like having a single thermostat for your entire house. If one room was too cold, you had to blast the heat for the whole building. Now you have a smart thermostat in every single room. You can cache one tiny button without touching the rest of the page. And the most important part? Look at caching scope. It's not just for fetch anymore. We can now cache any server I/O. We're talking database calls, file system reads, you name it. That is huge. Okay, so that's the what and the why. Now, let's get our hands dirty with the how. How do you actually make this switch in your projects? Let's walk through your migration guide for getting rid of those old configs. And here it is, the star of the show, the magic string that makes it all happen. useCache. It's that simple. You pop this little directive at the top of a component or a function, and you're essentially telling Next.js, hey, see everything that happens in here? Remember it. Cache it. This is your new go-to for performance. Let's start with the easiest one, which is just so satisfying. Remember this line, export const dynamic equals force dynamic? You used it to tell a page, hey, don't be static. Well, since everything is dynamic by default now, you just delete it. Yep, that's it. Gone. How great is that? Now what about the opposite? What if you wanted to force a page to be static? Before, you'd use force static. The new way is a perfect logical flip. You now opt into the cache by adding our new best friend, useCache, right at the top. It's so much more explicit and honestly just makes more sense. And this one, I love this change. The old revalidate with a magic number like 3600, was that seconds? Minutes? You had to remember it meant 1 hour? Now it's just so much cleaner. You import cacheLife from Next.js and you just tell it what you mean in plain English. cacheLife, hours, or minutes, or days. It's self-documenting code, and it's beautiful. And what about fetch cache? Well, it's another one for the history books. useCache is so powerful and so comprehensive that it just makes fetch cache completely redundant. It handles all the data fetching within its scope automatically. So just like force dynamic, you can just go ahead and delete this line from your code. All right, enough with the theory. Theory's great, but let's see how this stuff actually works in the wild. We're going to look at some super common examples, starting with how you deal with components that need data that's only available at runtime. This is where things get really magical, because cache components have a partner in crime, React Suspense. They work together perfectly. The process is simple. Your page gets some dynamic data, like search params from the URL. You find the component that needs that data and just wrap it in a suspense boundary. Next.js handles the rest. It instantly sends down the static shell of your page, and then, once the dynamic part is ready, it streams it in. This is partial pre-rendering, and it feels incredibly fast to the user. So check out this classic scenario. You've got a page with a big data table, and you can sort it using a URL parameter. In the old world, that little URL change might have made the entire page dynamic. Not anymore. Now, your main page component gets those search params, passes them down to the table component, and you wrap just the table in suspense. Your header, your nav, your footer, they all load instantly from the cache. Only the table itself is dynamic. It's surgical. But wait, there's more. This whole new model isn't just for your pretty UI components. And this is one of my favorite parts. It brings the exact same consistent caching logic all the way to your back-end API routes. You learn one way to cache, and it works everywhere. Just look at how clean this is. Before, your API route was probably hammering your database with a query on every single request. Now, you just take that expensive query, pull it out into its own little helper function, add useCache and a cacheLife, and boom, your API endpoint is now cached. You've just massively reduced your database load and made your API incredibly fast. It's that simple. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've covered a ton of ground, but it all boils down to a few key things. And really, what this all represents is a brand new superpower for you as a Next.js developer. So what's the bottom line here? You've gained surgical control. You can cache a tiny piece of your UI, not just whole pages. You can cache anything, database calls, heavy computations, you name it. This creates a way better user experience with things like streaming UI, and it's all managed by a single, simple, explicit model that's just way easier to reason about. And that brings me to my final question for you. I want you to really think about this for your own projects. Now that you have this power, the ability to cache literally anything on the server, what's the first thing you're going to optimize? Is it that one slow database query that's always been a pain? That heavy data transformation? The possibilities are pretty much endless now. And on that thought, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into Next.js cache components. I really hope you're as excited about this as I am. If you found this useful, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe to Build Bytes Daily for more explainers on the tech that builds the web. See you in the next one.